Hello world, thanks for clicking on this video. I'm someone who's not only lived in both US and China, but someone who truly fits into both societies. I look around, I don't see anyone like me who understands both societies and speaks both languages fluently so I can get the idea across. And that's when I realized I should probably speak up. We all know about the NBA China controversy. Adam Silver was saying that they support Daryl Morey's right for exercising his freedom of speech, not the content of his speech. That statement makes perfect sense from an American point of view. I don't think that Chinese people should be so harsh on NBA, but the idea is not getting across in China. I'm here to tell you why. He's saying it as if there's no freedom of speech in China. That in itself is insulting to the Chinese. Chinese people think that we also say whatever we want. Why are Americans using freedom of speech as a shield and excuse? If you think you have the right to insult your customers, it's only fair that your customers have the right to walk away, especially since Daryl Morey's from the Rockets. They've made enough money in China because of Yao Ming. We just don't want to do business with them anymore. What Adam Silver and all Americans were actually saying was that in America, you can express your political opinions freely without getting punished. But that is not because there is freedom of speech in the US, no freedom of speech in China. That is because in America, political opinions are usually split. You have two political parties competing for presidency every 4 years. You're used to seeing political debates on TV. You can be on one channel and that channel is making fun of Trump, and you can switch to the next channel and that channel is saying that Trump is the chosen one. You can never see that kind of situation in China. You would not be punished in the US whatever you say because usually 50% of the people would agree with you and 50% of the people would not. Because there's people that do support you, you would not be banned. People can only take it as you were just expressing your personal opinion. Things are only banned when almost all the people disagree with you. This is why Donald Sterling was banned by the NBA. America has been fighting for racial equality for so many years. We all hang out with each other nowadays. It just seems crazy to judge someone based on his or her race.
I am banning Mr. Sterling for life.
The way that Americans react to racism is no different than how Chinese people react to separatism. Misunderstandings arose because what people unanimously agree on are different in the two countries. In China, people usually have a unanimous opinion on political matters. When you offend one Chinese person, you've offended all Chinese people. That's why it's hard for them to understand. That's what you meant by freedom of expression, that you shouldn't be punished for expressing a political opinion. Americans might think, so how can Chinese people all have the same opinion? It has to be their evil and oppressive communist government who's been brainwashing Chinese people and blocking outside information. Let me tell you what Chinese people think. Chinese people think that even though we all share the same idea, we think it's the correct idea, so we don't see an issue here. And even though we only have one ruling party, we actually have a pretty good government that works hard for people's well-being. Our economy has been soaring and we're happy. And Chinese people all have the same idea, not because there's only one ruling party, but because China is a mono-ethnic country with a 5,000-year-long civilization and a still traditional, conservative, and Confucian culture. Let me describe to you what a Chinese class was like to me when I was studying in China. The teacher would ask a question, we would raise our hands to answer that question. In the end, the teacher would give us the correct answer, and one student would end up being correct, and the rest would end up being wrong. Confucius teaches you what is right and what is wrong, and he also teaches you to be humble, low-profile, united, disciplined, and patriotic. Our country was bullied by the Western world in the last century. Today, Chinese people have stood up, and we don't want our country to be separated into pieces, which is what the Western world tried to do to us. We've seen what happened to Korea, so I think that's reasonable. And this is why anything that has to do with separatism challenges the bottom line of all Chinese people, and you better not publicly support separatism if you don't want to lose your business in China. I personally believe that if you want to run your business in another country, it makes sense to comply with that country's rules instead of assuming that your own rules are superior. I was watching this video with Mark Zuckerberg trying to justify why Libra is necessary. He was like, we should do this and that so we can bring our value of free speech to other countries. That's when I realized why I can't access Facebook in China and how there's a huge misunderstanding issue here. I'm bringing this up because I'm hoping that companies like Facebook and Google can make some changes to their services in China so they can come back to the Chinese market and I can use them without a VPN. Back in the day when I was a kid in China, I learned that it'd be easier for me to just sit and listen to what other people had to say and figure out what I would like to believe afterwards. That way I wouldn't lose phase when my answer happens to be wrong. But in America, students will always get into heated discussions in non-technical classes. I was still not saying anything because I was used to my Chinese way of surviving. I remember I was thinking to myself that the other kids were really talking about nonsense, like how can they think that way? But they still give off this super confident vibe and teachers really like them. They're the ones that should get A's because it shows that they're involved in the class and they're thinking. The teacher might not agree with the students, but him or her not agreeing with the students does not prove that the students are wrong because the teacher can only have personal opinions as well. In America, we always discuss, but we don't have to reach a consensus because we value personal opinions. And we often can't even reach an agreement because we have people from all kinds of different cultural backgrounds. China's education system makes the smart people a little dumber, the dumb people a little smarter, and in the end, it makes everyone a decent person. America's education system makes the smart people geniuses and the dumb people extremely dumb. I think China's education killed my creativity a bit, and teachers weren't able to see my talents, but when I came to the States, everyone thought I was smart. I was also given the space to do what I was interested in and what I'm good at. It really boosted my confidence, so I'm really glad I came to the States. But I don't blame China's education system. It's been like that for thousands of years. It's hard to change it, and I do see how it makes the dumb people smarter. That's why Asian kids tend to get good grades in school. You don't think it's because they're in general smarter than you, right? It's because they're educated differently at home. Another thing that Americans don't see is that China is also a democratic country. We vote for people's representatives who can be from different political parties or no parties at all, and those people's representatives vote for the president. There are some consensus algorithms and blockchain technology that use a similar regime. You can look into them if you're interested. But basically, you can't really say that this political system is worse than having people vote directly for the presidential candidates. You just have to put things into practice and test to see whether things are working. China is a mono-ethnic country with 1/5 of the world's population, while the US is a polyethnic country with 1/20th of the world's population. Managing a country with 1.4 billion people is not as easy as you think. And managing a country with all kinds of different races is also not as easy as you think. There clearly has to be differences in how these two countries should be ruled. We shouldn't exert one country's ideas directly onto the other. The worst we could do is to interfere in the other country's internal affairs. One thing I see is that most people can see the truth when the matter is simple. I go jump off a building from like the 20th floor, I die, everyone can figure that out. But when the matter becomes complicated, such as what is the theory of relativity or who would be the better president, the majority of the people might not be smart enough to see the truth. In that case, you might want to cancel out some voices. After I came back to China, I've been seeing some benefits of not having to listen to all voices. For example, we think building infrastructure would benefit our people. We make everyone believe it's the correct answer for us, and we do it. Whereas in the US, we kind of have to get a lot of signatures signed, and when we don't, the project is put on hold till infinity. And when it comes to gun control, Americans' intentions are nice. Like, you want to also give people their freedom to hunt, you want to listen to all voices, you want to come up with an ideal solution. But you're actually not coming up with any solution, because you can't have people reach an agreement. And when that happens, you just leave it at that. Nothing is done. So you have to face the fact that what you're doing is not necessarily better than what other people are doing. China is going the easier path where, like, let's ban guns so at least people don't die. If you want to go hunt, then deal with it. It doesn't mean that the Chinese government is being evil and oppressive. You just have to make sacrifices sometimes. And we believe that the more freedom criminals have, the less freedom innocent people have. It's just hard to find that one policy that makes the perfect balance. China is like a really strict parent, and Hong Kong is like that kid that was forcibly adopted by some white parents and later returned. We're like, well, this kid is different now. Let's let him be who he is. So we'll have one country, two systems. And in fact, let's be super nice to them, because Hong Kong was a poor kid who wasn't able to stay with dada and mama. Let's give them our water and energy, protect them with our army, and let's not have them pay us any tax. Hong Kong really didn't have any freedom when it was a British colony, but it's been ranked as the #1 freest economy in the world for 25 consecutive years up until this year. We really need to talk about the extradition bill now. Someone from Hong Kong killed his girlfriend in Taiwan and went back to Hong Kong. They weren't able to turn him over to Taiwan because there wasn't such an extradition law that allowed it. We saw a problem there. Even though we're one country, two systems, we're still one country. We can't let people think that they can kill someone without having to bear the responsibility for their behavior. And there's also Taiwan. Taiwan is a different story. Taiwan was a Japanese colony, and the Nationalist Party that lost to the Communist Party during Civil War sort of ran over to Taiwan and established their government there. But the Nationalist Party wants China as a whole as well. It's the other political party, the Democratic Progressive Party, that wants Taiwan to be independent. But I don't think they're rightfully separating the country into two, and Americans definitely don't want to touch on this topic. Back to the US-China relationship. Americans think that China is evil because China's been cheating in trade and stealing intellectual property, and they think that the Chinese government doesn't give people human rights. Chinese people think that Americans are evil because Americans have been using unjustified accusations and double standards to block China from fair competition and international collaboration and demonize China through media all over the world. In every society, there's like 1% psychopaths, 2% sociopaths, and 5% narcissists. That's it. Everyone else is nice. And I know for a fact that most people in both China and America are nice. That's why I'm open to communication. If you're a tech person, you would know that the state-of-the-art research work is published by universities all over the world, and people build on top of each other. And it takes time and efforts for engineers that work in the industry to actually apply those research results to specific industrial needs that target different markets in different countries.
The rule that everything that comes from China is bad if it tries to come to the US, or everything from the US, like jet engines, software, you name it, is bad. That is one crazy approach.
If we keep on demonizing each other and communicate while not understanding what the other side is talking about, the relationship is just going to go downhill. I don't want to see that happen as someone who truly loves both countries, even though we're people from different countries. At the end of the day, we're all humans that live on the same planet. We should embrace our differences and work together to make the earth a better place.
I worry about U.S.-China relations.
Anyways, this is a really broad topic and I don't want to make this video super long. I hope I was able to bring to light the essence of the other side of the story. I don't know if anyone's going to even find this video, but if you happen to be watching and you think what I just said was meaningful, please help me spread the words by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. I really appreciate all your help and support.